Hello and welcome to Blytheway Business News, where for this edition I'm joined by Keith Coughlan, who is Executive Chairman of European Metals. European Metals is listed on the AIM market with a market capitalisation of around £117 million sterling, but also on the Australian Stock Exchange and on Nasdaq. The company is developing the lithium asset, which is possibly the largest hard rock lithium asset in Europe. Keith, welcome back on Blytheway Business News. Can we start by giving the viewers a quick reminder of the Cinevets lithium project and an overview of what you've got there, please?
Sure, Tim. Thank you, and thanks for having me on the program. So you're right in saying Cinevets is the largest hard rock lithium resource in Europe. It's about the fourth largest hard rock lithium resource in the world. So it's a very big project. It's in the Czech Republic on that country's border with Germany. We've been developing the project since early 2014 now, and we're about halfway through a definitive feasibility study, which we will conclude early next year and move to final investment decision. We'd hope to be in construction through until about Q2, Q3 of 2023 and go into production shortly thereafter.
Now, you mentioned the definitive feasibility study just there, Keith. You've just released some results on the refining process as part of that. What's the highlights and what are they showing you?
Well, the definitive feasibility study is there mainly to prove what we've postulated in the preliminary feasibility study and the optimization work that we've done since then, of which there's been quite a bit. And all of the optimization work is basically to enhance the economics of the project, improve our recoveries, demonstrate that the project works, the flow sheet works in a lock cycle path. And that's what we did. That was the announcement I think you're alluding to that we made last week, demonstrated that the lock cycle test work all worked as we'd hoped it would. In fact, we demonstrated that after completing only 4 of the proposed 6 tests. So we stopped that test work at that point in time. But everything we're doing now is just to enhance the certainty of the project, to bring it to a bankable level, so that we can go out there, raise the money late this year, early next year to take the project into production.
Okay, so everything you're doing is just to give you more confidence and more assurance. You've also done some infill drilling at the site. What's the infill drilling telling you?
So it's the same thing. The primary reason that we're doing that drilling is to bring a larger portion of the JORC resource into a more certain category of the JORC resource. So taking more of the resource into the measured category. What that does is it gives you initially more years of project life from the measured category. And that enhances, again, the certainty. It gives the, it gives the financiers, more comfort in lending you the money to go and build it. The other reason for doing this drilling is to provide us with some more material, some more core samples that we can use to create end product marketing samples to go to our potential off-takers. So the results of all of that drilling program have been very good, previously announced. We have a couple of holes left to go in that program. And at the end of that program, we will announce a resource upgrade, as I say, aimed at taking a larger portion of the resource into the measured category.
It's all about progress and steps this morning with this interview, but you've also just done the environmental impact assessment on the project. So what does that mean then in terms of next steps for that part of the development?
So yes, we just made the formal application for the EIA to the Czech authorities. The background work to that study has been going on for some years. You have to complete baseline studies for a minimum of 2 years on a number of these factors. So it is all work that we've been undertaking for some time. The EIA itself is a critical path item. It's obviously a very important part of taking the project through to the next stage from a permitting point of view, and it's a required part of leading into the application for our final mining permit towards the end of the year. So happily, it was accompanied by independent studies that concluded there was no negative impact on the surrounding environment. the project's ESG credentials are all stacking up very well. In part, that's because we're fortunate enough to be restarting a historic mine rather than trying to start from scratch and breaking new ground.
You mentioned ESG, and for the last goodness knows how long, we've not done an interview with a mining company on this show without mentioning ESG, environmental, social, and governmental. It's the buzzwords of the mining industry right now, quite rightly.
That's correct. It's becoming more and more important, and rightly so.
You've adopted a gold standard, a gold standard for your reporting. So what does that mean? Well, what is, in practical terms, what does the gold standard mean?
Well, effectively, it means that you're holding yourself out to the highest level of scrutiny in all of the categories. We've recently engaged with an external, globally recognised consultant to run that process for us. So it's independent, it's arm's length, it's very measurable, which is a key, and it's also very reportable. The thing about ESG, and specifically within ESG, if you look at carbon assessment, emission assessment, etc., they're relatively new fields, and the trick is how one measures one project's credentials against another. And so you need an independent consultant with an independent set of verification criteria, so you can measure one project against the other. It's going to be very important, particularly in the battery industry. The buyers of the batteries that will contain our lithium will be assessed on all of the emissions of their entire supply chain. So if that's an electric vehicle made in Germany, the CO2 emissions, the CO2 footprint of every part of the supply chain of that vehicle will be assessed, and that company will be marked on the overall emissions of that vehicle.
So look, you're sitting there with the project in Europe, the largest hard rock lithium project in Europe. Everyone's talking about this transition now to electric vehicles, the move to green technologies. Europe has got the potential to have a sustainable lithium supply chain. What more needs to be done to bring that to fruition?
You mean in a global sense, Tim? All of Europe?
From a European perspective, what more needs to happen?
Well, these projects all need to come into production. If Europe is to achieve anywhere near its goal of being 80% lithium self-sufficient, then all of the known projects need to come into production. And that requires a significant amount of work, but it also requires a significant amount of investment. Building a large project, our capex will be in the vicinity of $500 million to build our mine and processing plant. And all of these projects require significant investment and significant finance to get up and running. So in order for Europe to meet a large portion of its demand, these projects need to come online.
Thanks, Keith. That was Keith Coughlan, Executive Chairman of European Metals, updating us on the developments at the hard rock granite project at Cinevets in the Czech Republic. That's it from Blytheway Business News for this edition. Thanks for watching.